Senyujine, Tamatin Jadapon Petra, Tempechaditan Sapa, Pidantila, Chaksala. Git Senyujine, Tamatin Jadapon Petra, Tempechaditan Sapa, Pidantila, Chaksala. Git Senyujine, Tamatin Jadapon Petra, Tempechaditan Sapa, Pidantila, Chaksala. Many of you may have come to learn something today. Some bit of wisdom that you can put in your pocket and pull out later, like one of those great quotes that you put up on your mirror or carry in your wallet, memorize. But this path is a path of no more learning. So this isn't about learning something new. It's not about gaining some new knowledge. It's not about making something. It's about undoing something. So I want to clarify that from the beginning. And when you leave here, you'll leave with nothing. I hope you will leave here with nothing. Because you see, the path of learning, having just a bunch of intellectual knowledge, is interesting. It makes for good cocktail party conversation. But does it really help us in the long run? Those people who get very attached to concepts and sometimes be quite obnoxious with their wanting to beat you over the head with those concepts and make you align with them. You just have to watch a few of the news shows to see that this is our habit, wanting to get really tied to these ideas, these ways of being. But this definitely is the path of no more learning, especially when we're talking about prajna paramita. That's transcendent wisdom. So transcendent wisdom isn't a concept. Transcendent wisdom is wisdom that arises, that's innate within us, that's always present, and if we have to put concepts around it, we can call it truth. It's the truth. It's very hard to speak about the Dharma, actually. Although I do it a lot, it's very hard to do because there's not enough sounds in our language to really capture what I'm talking about here. So in the beginning of our practice, I ask you to sit and let go and really not do anything except pay attention to the breath. But what your mind did was another story, right? I know mine does. It goes off in numerous directions. And it's working. Constantly working, trying to figure things out. Or it's caught up in some story. How can I fix this? How can I change that? How can I become more comfortable? Or just sometimes it just gripes, complains, the stream of complaints in our mind. And that's all fine. All of those things are perfectly fine. You don't have to change them. If your meditation was full of complaints, that's fine. Just notice, my meditation is full of complaints. I was at a party the other day, and somebody told me, in my 20s I tried to meditate, but I just wasn't good at it. I said, oh, really? Well, what were you trying to get good at? And she said, well, I couldn't stop thinking. I said, oh, well, that was not the right instruction. That's not the right understanding. So you were probably quite good at it. You just didn't have the right measurement tool. So we have to have the right understanding in order to even gauge where we're at. If we think it's about not thinking, then we'll always be a big loser. Like a meditation loser, which isn't such a bad thing, actually. Anam Thupten jokes that that's the highest compliment, to say you're a loser in Tibet, because if you lose your ego and your concepts, then you're enlightened. Biggest loser has a different connotation there. It's not about our fat. In one of the sutras, the Buddha talked about this. He said that we're not trying to gain something. It's more about becoming disenchanted. Become disenchanted with what we normally think will bring us happiness and satisfaction. To realize that all those things that we thought were going to do that really don't do that. They don't bring us peace. I mentioned the other day about my friend who had long hair, and she cut it off because it was such a burden. It was beautiful and she loved having it, but she became disenchanted with the hair. It's a lovely idea, but when it's your own, it's not so good. It ends up costing lots of time, lots of effort. Doesn't mean we become grouchy about life. We don't want to be grouchy, holy people. Well, we don't need that. Kind of enough grouchiness around. It's not about that. It's about realizing that the things that we hold on to in life don't really provide what we thought that they would provide for us. But if we just take my word for that, it's really not going to do you any good. You could take that wisdom to a cocktail party and share it with a bunch of people and not be transformed by it at all. So the important part then is to look at this for yourself and see, what have I been doing in my life that I've been using to try and get away from my dissatisfaction? And then look closely at that and see, is it truly doing that long term? Or when it goes away, like a cup of tea or a glass of water. It brings me satisfaction as long as I have it, as long as I'm able to drink it. But if I was in the land of no more tea, I would have some discomfort if I was very attached to tea. So we have to investigate this for ourselves. Who knows what you're attached to? Who knows what I'm attached to? I know some of the things, but I'm always finding new ones. Even being attached to the idea of being a Dharma delivery person has to be let go of. And the idea of being a Buddhist eventually needs to be let go of. And the same with the idea of walking a path. All of this eventually is let go of. All these concepts about life. The Buddha talked about this nirvana being like a blowing out, like a flame being blown out. It's like we're sitting on a fire. And maybe it's just a small little match, or it could be a bonfire. Depends on where we are in our life. But regardless, we find that there's either a small dissatisfaction with the way things are, or there's complete and utter desperation. We can't stand it. Those times where somebody's left us, hurt us, died, or we realize that we have a terminal illness, and then this fire burns very brightly, and it consumes our ability to be present. So sometimes if we don't have a strong practice, we can get caught up in these ideas about our life. The idea about death is a very strong idea. And even now, as I say this, you may be thinking, what are you talking about? The idea of death. There is death. But from the ultimate view, there is not a coming and a going. The body dissolves, but that's not who we are. So then we wouldn't consider death, as the Buddha did not consider death to be a problem. There's a funny story in the sutras of when Buddha was dying, after he died, the word spread throughout the realm, and some of his disciples were away, and they found out that Buddha had died. And many of the monks just started crying, throwing themselves on the ground and distraught. But one was there who was enlightened, and he was looking at him saying, "What are you doing? Why are you behaving like this?" He said, "Finally, you're free from all the rules that the Buddha would always enforce on us. This is good news." What's the matter? Why are you doing this? And the Buddha also mentioned that there's no reason for tears. And that doesn't mean now we try not to cry when somebody dies. That's not the point. The point is to see the ultimate truth. And this is what people have been able to accomplish in the past, is to see the truth for themselves. The great experiment. We're trying to duplicate the great experiment. It's very good. This is what scientists try to do again and again, duplicate other people's work to verify that indeed there's some truth in their conclusions. So we do this for ourselves, right? We make this big experiment for ourselves, looking into the nature of our own experience to see what's there. Are we finding that we're attached to things and stories and ideas? If we are, all we need to do is recognize those attachments Doesn't mean we have to go clean out our whole closet and then go down to a store that sells tie-dye or something that makes us look more holy. It just means we recognize the attachment. And in the awareness itself, then the attachment dissolves. It may arise again, but then all we need to do is bring awareness to it again. Have you ever looked at your children or your pet or your lover or even a plant, if you don't have any of those others, and thought, oh, I love this thing so much. I just can't even imagine not being able to touch it, hold it, pet it, be with this person or thing. And then you got kind of sad, you tear up, just thinking about it. Oh, it'd be so terrible. I have the cutest dog in the world. I'm sure it's cuter than everybody else's dog. He's super cute, super, super duper cute. And when he looks at you, he's, oh, you are so cute. Then if you think about, oh dear, you only lived like 10, 12, 13 years. Dog doesn't live very long. And you can start thinking about, oh, I'm going to lose you, and then get sad about all of that just by a thought. Nothing's happened to the dog, it's just looking at you. But your mind gets all caught up in these things, right? And a little tears come to your eyes just thinking about losing the dog. And the dog's looking at you thinking, you know what? I could lose this person, before they lose me. That's really unrealistic. We don't really know what's going to happen. My point is that we have these stories that we're telling ourselves all the time. The ego's the great story writer. And some people say, oh, I can't write. I always have students say that, 15-year-olds. I can't write. I put a topic on the board and I ask them to write about it, and they write a paragraph or 2 sentences, or the paragraph is one really long sentence. They say, I can't write, but they're always telling stories. They just can't get them from the head to the paper. All of us are telling stories. We're telling the story of our life. Somebody abused me. Somebody doesn't love me. I'm better than somebody else. That person's stupid. They don't like me. I mean, it just is endless. We have these very habituated, crystallized stories. We even have the story of our gender. I'm female, I'm male. And that's a story only because ultimately we're not our body. That's not who we are. So that's a story about who we are. So in order to liberate ourselves from our suffering, we need a direct experience of the wisdom that lies within us. And so we practice again and again. We come to Dharma talks, we listen to audio teachings, we read books, all in the hopes of having this experience rather than the hopes of gaining more knowledge. It should be in this idea that we can go beyond the sorrow, the suffering that we experience. And we can change our view about how we see our experience. If we don't change our view, we don't change our experience. The other day I was talking to the community ed class, and I'm teaching a mindfulness, a secular class on mindfulness, and I said, you got to change your perspective. So I stood up on the chair. Sometimes we even have to physically do something to change our perspective. If we're really stuck and mired in a an attachment to some sorrowful thing. Change what you're doing. Maybe exercise. Go outside. Do something different. Change your perspective. Ultimately, though, we need to change our mind. We need to have a paradigm shift. Look at the world in a different way. See everything that we think of as a problem as an opportunity. Like insects or beetles might do with dung beetles. They saw a great opportunity. They saw a bunch of mushy dung, and they can't wait to get to it. They just run over to it, and they fight over it. See who can get their dung ball rolled up and out of there. So they can then use it as a place to multiply, to feed their young, and so on. If you haven't heard the story of a dung beetle, you really should Google that. It's quite interesting. I mean, even how they navigate the world, it's just incredible. So we can take the lessons from the natural world. And this dung beetle is giving us a great lesson. Take the crap that's in our life and transform it. Isn't that something? We can transform it and turn it into something that propels us towards awakening. And why would we want to be awakened? Because each of us desires happiness or joy, liberation from our suffering. We can't even stand discomfort for a short amount of time right now, right? We sit here in this place, and I know those chairs aren't very comfortable, but it's only an hour, so I thought, well, okay, an hour and 15 minutes. Okay, cost-benefit analysis, it's only that long, so. But it's uncomfortable. Our bodies get uncomfortable in a certain position if we stay in that position for even a few moments. And we shift, we move, we adjust. Now this is what we can use. We can use this discomfort to say, what is this about? Let me sit with my discomfort. We don't have to sit with it forever. Just for a little while. So let's try that right now. Close your eyes for a moment. Don't change your position. Stay right where you are. No, don't change your position. Just stay right where you are. And notice your mind. Is there discomfort? There may be discomfort in your body. There may be discomfort in your mind. Notice what discomfort there might be. And then visualize that you walk up to that discomfort and sit next to it. So let's imagine that maybe your discomfort, I'll give you an example, is in your knees. And so you're going to just sit with your knees and be peaceful and calm. Notice the discomfort. Not resist it, not have a story about it, not wishing it to go away, just being with it. Noticing its texture. Does it stay or does it ebb and flow? Notice something about this discomfort, even mental discomfort. Has your mind already moved on to some other spot in your body? Now shift. Make yourself comfortable. I'd like you to stay like this for the rest of your life. How comfortable would you be in this position? Yes, for now you're comfortable. just for now, just for a few moments maybe, you're comfortable. But if I asked you to stay like that for the rest of your life, you would not be comfortable. So do you see how transitory comfort is? It's always changing. So we've learned something already about ourselves. We can't find permanent comfort. We can't find it. There's no comfort that lasts in this relative realm. If we can accept that, then we won't be searching for it any longer. And that brings comfort. If we can accept that, there really isn't any lasting comfort. There is temporary. You know, when you get a massage, oh, so nice. But if they massaged you all day, through the night, into the next day, and on, you'd be fighting back. You'd be telling them, get away from me. I don't like you. I don't like your hands. I don't want any part of this. I never want to massage again. Right? So this is what the Buddha did. He sat and he saw his own mind. He said, I like comfort. I'm always trying to get away from discomfort. What can I do about that? And so he realized that because things are always changing, there's only our view that can change. Our mind can change. We can train our mind to be okay with discomfort. You've seen people, they can tie themselves up in little knots, and just sit like that and be okay with that for quite a long time. When the discomfort arises, like right now, we can say, okay, I'm uncomfortable, but that's okay. I don't have to have a whole story about being uncomfortable. I don't have to leave here and go, boy, man, I was so uncomfortable. It just sucked. It's horrible. And have a story, write a blog about our discomfort in meditation. We don't have to do that. We can just notice it. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but that's okay. It's so great. Because that too will end. That discomfort also will end. Maybe not when you want it to end, maybe not when I want it to end, but it eventually ends. It's about undoing all of these ideas. I like to think of it as unraveling this rope of ideas. And sometimes the rope is real short, and sometimes it's real long, and it takes us a while to unravel all these concepts and ideas. And then to experience our life directly. To experience discomfort as discomfort. Not to have a story about our discomfort, but just to notice my knee hurts. This place right here hurts. That's all right. I don't have to have a story about it. Or this moment is quite enjoyable. We can sit here and just hear the sound. All the sounds of the people moving next to you, the sound of the air coming from the fan, the sounds on the street. And that's a direct experience of life. As soon as we go beyond that and say, oh, that's too loud of a sound, that's too quiet of a sound, or that's an ugly sound, then we're wrapped up in concepts. Then we're not directly experiencing life. We're having a conversation about the experience. And those are fine to have as long as we know what we're doing. We're having a conversation about our experience. But now we've gone out of the direct experience of it and we're caught in a mind phenomena. We're caught in the mind, the thoughts of the experience. So it's fun to play with this a little bit. Oh, maybe during the week you could play with direct experience. You could have the direct experience of brushing your teeth. And just brush your teeth and be there with brushing your teeth. What does it really feel like to brush your teeth? What does it really feel like to pour yourself a cup of coffee? To be fully present for the moment. You could have an enlightened experience with toothbrushing. It doesn't have to be on a meditation cushion. You could have the direct experience of bliss when brushing your teeth or drinking a cup of tea or hiking in the woods or laying down in your bed. Oh, this is all play. Play with it, experiment with it, just like little kids do. They taste things, they put things in their mouth, you know. Oh, dirt, oh yeah, and we're like, oh my gosh, don't do that. Worms, you know, stuff, they just put it in there. And so you can experiment. What's it like to directly experience? Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day.